Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Landry. After winning Miss USA, Landry was featured in the iconic Doritos commercial, which is still to this day one of the most memorable Super Bowl commercials of all time. This commercial launched her into a successful career as an actress, television host, and brand ambassador, being touted as one of people's most beautiful. With a great business success, Allie is most proud, however, of her 17-year marriage and 3 beautiful children. Not long ago, Allie was experiencing exhaustion, brain fog, hair thinning, slow digestion, low sex drive, mild moments of depression, and sleepless nights. She was not about to settle for this and decided to figure it out and reshape her health. This journey was the inspiration for the launch of her Reshape lifestyle program and platform focused on overall wellness, lifestyle, beauty, and fitness. And it relates to your heart, mind, soul, and health. Allie is committed to researching and curating the very best resources, products, and services, along with sharing her personal network of the most trusted specialists with women around the world. Reshape Your Life, Allie's first book, releases with HarperCollins in March, which is right now, March 2023. She is traveling nationwide, sharing her story and providing resources to women, encouraging them not to settle. That it's never too late to reshape your life and that they are worth it. Today's conversation with Allie was so amazing and inspiring. She is beautiful inside and out and a perfect woman to exemplify the message that I bring with the Sisterhood of Sweat. Sweat standing for strong women, empowering, achieving together. And this is our 500th episode together. Thank you for listening, for sharing, for giving us reviews, and just making us one of the top podcasts, because it is my goal to reach 1 million women so they recognize their voice and that they are worthy of reaching their biggest, boldest dreams. As a survivor of domestic violence, I have made it my mission to have the community that supports women, women supporting women, because once upon a time, I didn't have that soft place to fall. And that's what I've hoped to create in this community. And Allie is so in alignment with that message. She talks about never settling for less. And when you know what you're worthy of, you never settle for less. Today, we talked all about worthiness and reshaping your life after like a disaster. She was once upon a time married to Mario Lopez for a couple weeks, and she's like, that is not what my life is about. I have lived a whole life. What she's proudest of is her 17-year marriage and her children. And so she talks about picking yourself up and just recognizing your worth and all things about your health. We talk about reshaping your life all the way down to your confidence, to taking care of yourself, your self-care, your wellness, mind, body, spirit. There's so much richness in this episode. That's why I picked it for our 500th episode. And I'm having a giveaway to the first 5 people to give us a review in iTunes. Make sure to give us a review, a 5-star review, and your feedback on Allie. Thanks so much to everyone for making our podcast in the top 100 and many times the top 50. Thank you so much, everyone. And without further ado, we will be diving into this episode with Allie. I really enjoyed speaking with Allie, and I just loved her heart, and it just came through her message.
I am so excited to welcome Allie Landry to the Sisterhood of Sweat today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting. Been looking forward to chatting with you.
Well, I have just been looking so forward to the interview because I've been diving into your book, Reshape Your Life, and also just learning a lot about you. And I want the audience to get to know you a little bit today and fall in love with you just like I did. So just tell them a little bit about your story. I really related to the fact that you're a small town girl because I'm a small town girl too. And I've done many pageants and fitness. I was just like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of similarities. So just start with your story, small town girl, and take it from there.
You know, the first 2 chapters of the book are really a love letter to my home state of Louisiana. And I live in the big city now in Los Angeles, but still to this day, I do consider myself just a small town girl. I was raised by, strong women and a beautiful community. And that is the foundation, of who I am as a person. I just was able to go back there last week and give a talk. And I mentioned something like, if you don't know where you've come from, then how can you know where you're going? So I always like to acknowledge that part of myself, part of my story. So I grew up in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, the crawfish capital of the world. My sister was the crawfish queen. I have, there's 10 children on my dad's side. There's 8 on my mom's side. They all live, I say, like on 2 big patches of land. I can go park at my aunt's house and literally, I say, one-stop shopping, go house to house to house to see aunts, cousins, grandparents have passed, but they were also on that property as well. I go back there often. And, in a small town, it's like I didn't have many opportunities, not as many opportunities my children have here in Los Angeles. My daughter is starring in a play right now called Something Rotten, a Shakespeare play. And I never had that. All I was able to do was, sports, which was, whatever was offered in school. I was in dancing since I was like young. I was a cheerleader. And I was also in pageants because that's kind of what Southern girls do. I stopped I stopped doing the pageants as I got older. But I found myself in college, at the University of Southwestern Louisiana in Lafayette, Louisiana. And, I was in my junior year and I just thought to myself, okay, let's like regroup and see the situation that we're currently in. I was in marketing and journalism. And I thought, okay, so I go on to graduate and I'll probably start at the lowest rung, in the ladder. Let's see if I could figure out a way to maybe skip a few steps. So I decided to compete for Miss Louisiana, knowing that if I won, and again, my sports background comes into place, I'm very competitive. If I won, then I have an opportunity to travel around the state and secure a job. So that was like the goal. I did win and I did secure a job in PR, funny enough, for a seismic data company. I mean, in the oil field. So not been my, my cup of tea, but, I accomplished that. But then you have to go on to Miss USA. And I did. And I talk about that in the book and like manifesting sort of what happened that night. And
I so believe in that.
And that thought process. I mean, I was young. I was 19 years old. I didn't know how I knew how to do that. And I ended up winning Miss USA. And that put me in Los Angeles, California. And I've been here ever since in the entertainment business.
I love that. I love it so much. And I really do believe that we can, when we start speaking our dreams out loud and we say what it is we want and we're specific and we ask for what we want, like, ask and you shall receive, that it's a lot more likely to happen. It's like your words are very important, and you speak it out into the universe and it comes back to you. And I just have to say, I've done that so many times that I know it's a reality.
Yeah. I mentioned, I separate the book into a few different categories: your mindset, your heart set, your soul set, and your health set. And especially when it comes to mindset, I talk about how words are powerful, thoughts are powerful. Your life actually looks like those thoughts, ends up looking like those thoughts. So we got to be careful with that, like you mentioned. And I do think that, and I also talk about specific practices to put into place. I'm a big believer in journaling, and it's great to write it down. Absolutely, right? In very specific detail. But the next level of that is speaking it out, because when you speak it out into the world, it becomes a little more real than when it's just written down on paper. So I am right on the same page with you on that note.
Speaking it out, and didn't you feel that to become Miss USA, you had to show up as if you were already Miss USA before you became it? Like, you have to show up as that.
I think for myself in that specific moment, I do believe I'm a very faithful person. I'm Catholic. I have faith is really the foundation of my life. And I remember, at 19, it's a huge platform, right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
I remember my prayer was, Lord, let them see your light shine through me. And I knew, of course, like the human part of me, the competitive, all of that, like I wanted to win. And I knew that I could, but I knew that there was a greater plan for my life.
Right.
And I had faith in that. And I knew that if it was meant to be, it would be. It was already written. I just had to show up. My responsibility, I felt,
cooperate,
was I had to show up the best version of myself. I could not let me get in the way of like God's plan, if that makes any sense. So that
makes 100% sense.
And I think like even in my life, yes, I will speak into, my dream for my book is that it becomes on New York Times bestsellers list, right? And that it's then translated into many languages. And I get to connect with women all over the world. Obviously, that's like the big dream. And I speak that out every day. But I know, like, I surrendered to the process of doing this book. I didn't seek out this opportunity. It kind of came to me.
Right.
And it's also about like just really surrendering. And again, like knowing that there is that greater plan for you and trusting in that and not always having to control,
And I love what you said, because I'm also a person of faith. So speaking it out, yes, but I always ask what his plans are. And I love that, I have the same mission. I want to reach 1 million women and help build their self-confidence through building health. And I love that you're, on a mission that's bigger than yourself. And when we bring faith into the mix, I mean, he is the author and finisher of our faith. Absolutely. And so, and our dreams. So like when you have big dreams, I think it's just important you make sure that you're in alignment with everything, all the way up to the top.
Absolutely. I always say, like, I know that God's plan for me is way bigger and greater than anything that I could ever imagine for myself, but still I do request in very specific detail. and
That's what I was saying.
And then I surrender. But Oprah says the same thing. You pray in very specific detail and then you let it go. Right.
Oh yeah. And I just have to say praying specifically is really important because it's like ordering a sandwich when you order, or if you order a salad and you want to have chicken and cranberry and walnuts, it's going to show up how you order it most of the time. And I really have had a few dreams where I spoke specifically that, that I wanted to be on the Steve Harvey show with my
Love him.
book. And I was sitting in the audience in the front row with my book. But be specific. I want to be on the Steve Harvey show as a speaker with my book and deliver an amazing message. Like, it's dialing that in and being so specific. And just seriously, I recently said, I want to, my next biggest dream to come to fruition that I wanted was to speak on the same stage where I sponsored a TEDx talk.
Mm,
And God not only delivered, but now I'm going to be on that stage 7 times speaking all the way through the end of June. And so I just really believe that being very specific about your dreams
yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
love that about you. I love the fact that you had a message bigger than yourself. It wasn't about just winning a beauty pageant. It was about your message. And what is your why? Like, what is your biggest why behind all the things that you're doing?
yeah, that's a really good question. I always feel like I want to be in service to others. That's what I feel. And ultimately, I want to have a true, authentic connection with women and join together. I get emotional, arm in arm on this journey that we're going through of life, right? I feel like so often, I mean, I see it with some of my friends. It's like we put up these masks and we pretend like everything's great, I mean, you see it on social media, everything's wonderful, life is all of it. And that's not reality. And how can you ever have a true connection if you are not honest? So I always like to show up. I mean, it is a prayer of mine. Like, I just envision myself like cracked open. And when I meet people or approach people, like I come to them like this, right? And my goal is always to bring down as many of the masks or walls that they put up, because it's the only way we can connect as human beings. It's the only way. I know just from my experience that I've talked about in the book, like life is so short. Tomorrow is
Hmm.
not promised. Like I'm not going to go through each day wasting my time pretending to be something that I'm not, or if I'm having a bad
Hmm.
day, I'm having a really bad day. If I feel depressed, yeah, it might not be a deep depression, but I'm depressed. Like I don't feel great today. Okay. Or, whatever it is, whatever's going on, because I know that other women are feeling the same, but why don't we always talk about it and support each other? Right. So that's really my why.
And I love that so much because as women, like the biggest thing for me, I know you've had some rough times, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And for me, the reason why I created the Sisterhood of Sweat is I never wanted another woman to feel alone and go through what I did
Mhm.
without support. And we can support one another and be there, and for women to be seen and heard and feel supported and have that connection is so key. And I know, like, you haven't always had the easiest time. I was reading that you were married for 2 weeks to Mario Lopez, and that. And this is a topic I want to kind of bring up because I think women, no matter what walk of life we're in, we can be aging, like I'm 60, you can have that worry of what will you do if you're in that situation where you find out this is not the life of my dreams, and you had to make a decision
Mm.
in that moment of who am I going to be now. And I just want you to kind of if you can, share with the audience that vulnerable moment and what came out of it, and what good did you find that it brought to your life later?
Yeah. I don't, in the book, it's all over the news. Obviously, it was a very public thing. But I don't even speak his name in the book because it's really not even about him. It's
Right,
not about him.
right,
It's
right.
about how I realize my worth in that time.
Yeah.
And what, at the time looked like the worst thing that had ever happened to me, the most difficult thing. How am I going to move forward? It felt like a death. You had this dream of this life, and now it was completely gone. And you were kind of in a place like, and now what?
Right.
Your story,
Just, yeah.
I'm sure you can relate. So many women, whether it's
Oh, so many women can relate.
look, it shows up like that in a lot of different ways. And it was, I didn't have a choice. I call that a forced reshape. I didn't have a choice. There was no apology after, it all went down. I just had to basically figure out how to pick myself up and move on. And it was a process. And I talk about it very specifically. And again, at the time, I will say the book is definitely grounded in faith, because I had a student Bible and I had The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, the workbook. And every time an emotion would come up, my mom would say, "Why aren't you angry? Why don't you?" It was not the place where instinctually I wanted to go. I knew that I needed to heal. So
Right.
an emotion would bubble up right in me. I would go to that back of that Bible, I'd research that word, and then I would immediately read the passage. And it was like peace would wash over me. That's actually what gave me strength. That workbook was a journaling part. I would read that passage and then I would journal on my own life per what was kind of in that passage. And it was like a therapy session. I also became, again, we're talking about being clear. I was very clear. I remember on the top, that book is probably right here behind me somewhere. On the top of each page of the journal, I would write down what I wanted in a partner that was going to come into my life. I wanted a man that was going to hold my heart so gently in his hands and carefree. I wanted somebody that was equally yoked. I wanted, I wrote down
You were
everything.
specific about it.
I wrote, yes, because I just thought, you know what? I feel like my contribution to me being in that situation is I had blinders on. I felt like I was not fully aware maybe of the situation I was in. I just maybe was a little passive. Things happened. I felt like God, through that process, tried to pull me out, and I would just ignore, I'm doing me. Sorry, whatever.
Yeah.
Until finally he said to me, no, I don't want you in this anymore. And literally had to grab me out by an extreme situation, as I share in the book. But what I can say, coming out on the other side of it, and that's really the reshapes that I talk about in the book. There's some that are I think more probably brought me to my knees in a different way. Or, if you saw that part, where I didn't know if I could get up, and I had to move forward for my children and my family. But I got through those better than I was before. So I use my stories as examples and to help people with their own roadmap. I can say now that situation was a gift. I am so thankful. It changed me as a woman. It changed how I walk through this world. It really changed me completely. And again, I say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It sucked at the time.
Yes.
It sucked. It really did. But there was such tremendous growth. And what I did know is, and we talk about it, I talk about it in the book, is that, when these things happen to us, it's not easy to deal with it, to deal with the repercussions, the pain, the insecurity, the feeling of you're not worthy, you're not good enough. Why me? All of those emotions come up. It's not easy to sit in that. It's not fun. It's not easy. But if you don't deal with the pain, in my opinion, really sit in it and feel it and move through it, if you just sweep it under the rug and like move forward in life, and that's going to show up in your life guaranteed in some way, shape, or form down the road. And I knew that. And I knew that that was not what I wanted for myself. I knew that I was not, if I'm going to move forward, like we are moving forward, we are not looking back. We are going to learn and we are going to grow. We're going to evolve. We're going to change. We're going to transform, but we are not going back to that. And it is not coming to show its face in my life again. So I knew that. And I don't know how I knew it. I think again, like God just had his hand. And it was just like an instinctual thing. Like I knew that that's how I needed to heal and move forward.
And just because somebody treats a woman like she's not valuable doesn't mean that she isn't valuable. And you determine your worth. You, by the way that you rise up when something like that happens. And I think also when something like that happens, like you called it a gift, it is a lesson. And I think it teaches you. And also for me, I had to learn what I was worthy of and what my true value is. And we are priceless. We are wonderfully made. We were created. God already chose us. We don't need someone's approval stamp on us. And I think like you also in that moment decided, no, like what you are worthy of. And I think value is so important because anytime you go for a big dream, it shows up for you.
Yeah.
You can sit in, who am I to do this? And feel if, you have to work on, who am I not to do this? Who am I not to be on the side of a building? We're dreaming too small. And I just really think when you go through something, usually if you look down the road, it was a catalyst for some of the biggest growth, the biggest dreams that have ever come into your life.
Absolutely. The funny thing is during that time, there was such tremendous growth and transformation during that time. When I look back on it, I actually like long for that. Like I miss that. I long for it. So, and I can only say it now because of the seat that I'm sitting in now, right? Because at the moment it was not really fun. But looking back, you can see that, like, wow, like I'm so proud of myself, got to pat ourselves on the back for doing certain things, So yeah, great teacher.
What advice would you have for women out there that are going through something similar? And it might not be a marriage, it could be a job. Somebody fired them after they worked for 30 years and devoted themselves. It could be a marriage that just had its day at 30 years or 2 weeks. I mean, it could be any number of things. But right now, they are not feeling their value and they're feeling so alone. What advice would you give them?
Well, I can't remember who said this, but I love it. Things happen for us. We should think about things happening for us, not to us, and we might not understand it. And again, this is where faith comes in. You may not understand it in the moment, but there is a greater plan. You just got to tap into that, right? You got to show, we're all called to be great, right? We are all called to be great. And maybe this, again, like, is that gift. Maybe it was time to have that shift in your life. Maybe there is something greater waiting around in the corner, but that thing was holding the space. So this amazing thing can't even come in. So, but again, it's like all those things, you have to really, that's why I talk about specific things like the prayer and meditation in the morning, the journaling, and then having like a set of books that feed these things into you, right? So you're growing your mental state, you're getting a new perspective, getting some wisdom, dropped in. That's how you really evolve, And
you do have to clear space.
Yeah.
Because if you have everything taken up, you have no room for those big dreams to come in.
Yeah.
And I love that you're so happy now, which I could totally tell just by the way you and your husband were interacting right before our
He was
Zoom
driving me
call.
crazy, by the way, because you know, we're both in the house working and we're like, can I have the computer? No, I'm doing a Zoom right now. No, I need it for my husband's a filmmaker. So, and he has two films coming out. So he's a little busy right now, but yeah, he was delivered to me too, I feel. And I actually prayed for him, you know, in specific detail.
Yeah.
I do feel like he was one of those gifts.
And I think it's
Even
just
though he drives me
realizing,
crazy, I'll say that.
well, I mean, we are real, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what we're going to be for sure.
yeah, like I think it's just amazing how sometimes things are really not a good fit, but we feel like it was a loss, but it
Mhm.
was really a gift. And when you get what really is meant for you, nothing else will do. Like, oh my gosh, I was born to do this. I was
Absolutely.
meant to do this. This person fits me like a glove,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And being able to let go and move on and pick yourself up and recognize your worth, I think, and trust in the one that made us valuable.
yeah, for sure.
So good. Well, you wrote this book, Reshape Your Life, and you have really reshaped your life, but you had let's walk into the Dorito commercial because I love the story about the Dorito commercial. What made you think of, I mean, you really had a lot of guts to walk in and do what you did right off the bat. Just tell everybody what you did, and then I'll ask you a question after that.
Okay, so the call came in again. I had just given up Miss USA. I was in Los Angeles. I was signed with a huge agency. I was signed with William Morris at the time. I'll never forget, I was driving a white Trans Am convertible because I won that car as part of my
I love that. That's the best part.
protagonist, so living the California dream with my white Trans Am. So anyway, so I get the call for the audition, and at first I was just like, it was raining. I think it was raining that day, and I was like, I still was new to LA, and I was just like, I wasn't ready to like navigate like all of that, and then the rain. We still had like the Thomas guides. We didn't even have Waze or Google Maps or anything like that. I still had the actual map that had to sit in the car seat. So I didn't go the first time I was called in for the audition, and then the second time my agent called and he's like, listen, they're looking for this girl in New York and LA. It's been weeks. They haven't found her. You should really go in. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I go in, and I just remember walking in, and of course, like the room is lined with gorgeous girls. And I walked over to the storyboard, and they said they wanted you to kind of dance around and pretend like you were catching a chip in your mouth and this James Bondish music. And then I was really bothered. I was like really? Like, I really want to do this today. But then my mind went to, I'm dressed. So that's like a big thing for women, right? Like I'm actually dressed and I'm here. So if I'm here and I'm dressed, I got to go in there and kill it.
For it.
I got to go for it. So because of my dance background, cheerleading background, I could do like really, cool little flips and splits and things like in a small space. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I went in there and I just, went for it. I did a front handspring, like into like a pike, and pretended like I caught the chip. I did like this cartwheel, but then went into a split. And I booked the job. And almost didn't happen because I almost didn't do it. I almost didn't go in, but I surrendered. And, like to this day, that commercial is like one of the most famous commercials of all time. Every single year, it's on that list of the best commercials ever. And it really launched me in, this was after Miss USA. You have to understand, like right after Miss USA. So it was what launched me into the entertainment business. It's how everybody knew my name. I was on the cover of, I was billboards in Times Square, and the cover of USA Today, and, it was like everywhere. So it really opened up all opportunities for me, but I was still so young, and really, again, like the blinders were on. There was no direction. It was all about me and listening to my agents and my managers. Not till obviously things started happening and I got wiser did I start taking a little more control of my career and being portrayed the way I wanted to be portrayed. But that took a while to get there.
Well, I think we're all young once, and you went for it. I admire you for that and going all in and following your dreams and having a crazy idea. Like, I think more of us should go for crazy ideas and stay stuck back in fear.
Yeah.
And that is what set you apart right there when you decided you were going for it all in and you
Yeah.
just did it.
Well, and I think that the main topic to talk about here, that I think people, yeah, there was fear, but fear shows up probably every day in our lives, right? Like, I'll give you the example of the book. The opportunity came to me. I didn't necessarily seek it out. And at first I said no. I said I'm still in my journey. I also had all those things of self-doubt, like, why me? I'm still learning and growing, but really it was fear. I was using all that as excuses. And then again, like, I remembered, when fear shows up in your life, that is probably the exact thing that you should do. Because I do know also that everything on the other side of fear is truly everything you desire. So then like Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better, right? So then I was like, oh, great. I remembered that. All right, I'll do it. So I jumped in head first to do the book. And that process of writing, I call it was not my love language. Like, I'm a very social person, a people person. I like to be in the trenches, connecting with people, sitting in my office, again, going through all those things and getting on the pit, like, for a year. I did get a little depressed after that, but again, like, it's out there in the world. And now I am speaking to you. I'm out there with women. They're reading the book. They're applying things. They're reshaping. I'm getting everything that I so desire. I'm now receiving because I stepped through that fear. So that's like a good example to me of fear and how it shows up and how maybe we need to look at it in a different way.
And writing a book is like birthing a baby. It's and like, it is, you have kind of birthing pains. I mean, it's definitely a project.
Yeah.
And it is kind of lonely when you're by yourself having to write, but I always kind of romanticize it in my mind. I'm like, I want a cabin in the woods and it's snowing, and I'm just gonna go up there and I'm gonna write with fire, and I think, like, trying to make the process fun, because it is somewhat lonely when you're writing a book, but it turned into such a beautiful book. And I really want you to kind of dive into the principles of what reshaping your life looks like.
Yeah, well, again, it goes back to, we spoke about the heartbreak, my forced reshapes, around heartbreak and betrayal. And there was another around tragedy and loss. And the third one was around my health. And I realized, and I guess I could tap into that story real quick, because that's why I started the company Reshape. And that's how I realized that I had been tapping into 4 different areas to kind of overcome these things in my life in like a miraculous way. So it all came together after the health reshape. So what happened was, I was on a daily talk show on Fox. What I thought at the time was my dream job. I've been in entertainment for over 20 years, but it was a panel. So there was other amazing, talented people, like, all the responsibilities didn't rest on me, which I liked. The schedule I thought would service myself and my family, because, you're on set at 5 a.m, hair, makeup, producers, you go live at 9 and you're done at 10. And then at 10, I thought, wow, like mom hat on. Well, first me hat. I'm going to go get my workout in. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to prepare, have the food ready for when the kids get home. I'm going to pick them up, take them to the activities. They're going to eat. And then I'm going to end the night with like wine with my husband. But that's not what happened at all. What happened was, first
Yeah,
of
I can
all,
see.
I was on the set in my dream job. And it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 live, where all cylinders had to be firing right in my body, like a very
Yeah.
high intensity situation, where before in my day-to-day life, I was like in carpool, like the issues that started to show up did not show up in the other in the normal day-to-day. So here I'm thinking one thing and I'm ready to interject, in my new gig, give my opinion. And when I opened my mouth, it would not come out that way. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it kept happening. So I thought, I'm going to lose this job if I don't get this together. And then I started looking at other parts of like what's going on. I had poor digestion. I was losing my hair. My mom, who's a hairstylist, looked at me one afternoon and she's like, Allie, your part is getting a little wider. And I was like, oh my gosh, like now I'm losing my, my hair. I was dipping into like, a little bit of a mild depression at times, definitely low sex drive, low energy, so low that I would get home from work at 10. Most of the time I did not work out. Sometimes I did. And I felt like I was in a boxing match with like Mike Tyson. And I'd come home at like 11, I would put my pajamas on and I'd climb into bed with probably like a bag of baked Cheetos or brownie brittle. And because that's what I was craving, right? I was having these cravings and I would pass out. And sometimes I'd wake up in time to pick up the kids. And other times my husband would have to pick them up. And I felt like I was living half a life. And
It was too much.
it was too much. And I knew that I needed to get to the root cause. And the best way I could describe it for women, like just to kind of scan your life right now and how you're feeling, it's like I felt off, but I didn't feel sick enough to go to the doctor, right? So I knew that I definitely didn't want to take any kind of medication to put a band-aid just so I could keep going. Like I knew because of all those other issues, like I needed to get to the root cause of it. So I saw a naturopathic doctor. But also before that, I asked my girlfriends, and at the time, I was in my mid 40s, and I asked my girlfriends, and they were same age, and they were just like, yeah, that's what happens when we age, or we are getting older. And I was mortified because I was like, ladies, like, no, like the train is not going to leave the station like this. Like I'm going to figure this out. I don't know if I'm going to figure it out just for me. And then I'm going to share it with you because I don't know if you're like, so that's exactly what I did. I saw the naturopathic doctor. I got the blood panel. It was like huge aha. I didn't feel like I was crazy with all of these things, right? I saw the numbers on the paper and that was the first step. Then I started doing supplementation, very specific to actually what was going on. I did like a candida detox. I started doing some intermittent fasting. I started adding higher quality fat. I mean, I changed my eating completely. My body was full of inflammation. I had chronic pain from something else. And then I experienced the next level of health. And I thought, I didn't put in that much effort. And here I am, and I'm feeling completely different. But why did no one tell me to do this? Like no one that I knew was having this conversation. So I knew that I need to share that. I knew I need to share it with women to like, it is possible. You don't have to settle for a life that you don't desire. Like you deserve more.
Right.
You can like, we have one life. Like that is the idea of Reshape. Like do not settle for less than what you deserve. You have one life. So let's make it a masterpiece. You are worth it. So I was like on a mission and I was passionate and I just wanted to share it with every woman I knew because I knew if I was feeling it, then other women were feeling that way as well. And that's how the platform Reshape was born. And that's sort of where the idea of the book came up, but plugging in those other reshapes and the idea of tapping into the heart set, the soul set, the mindset, and the health set to create a true and lasting reshape, because we could change things in our lives, but as we all know, it takes a lot of those components to really make something stick. That's why they say used to they would say 20 something days. Now they're saying longer for a habit to stick or something.
I think it's like 21 days, but
But now I think it's like up. Like now I think it's
longer.
It's longer. But I don't necessarily maybe, but I do think you have to really do some work in these specific areas.
Be intentional.
Be intentional and make it lasting. Because again, like going back to maybe some other things I shared earlier, like I don't have the time to like mess up. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it right the first time, or I'm going to do my best to do it right the first time, because I'm not going back to that place. Like we're going to figure it out, So
when you were in that place, we all think it's going to look a certain way, that it's going to be exactly as we see it, and it isn't always, right? The dream. And so you have to make adjustments. And how much did you go on, like your heart set, like, how your heart was feeling? Like, what were you feeling exhausted, right? How were you tuning into that?
I was feeling exhausted, and I definitely was feeling like a mild depression, for sure. Mild, because I don't want to discount people who have deep depression. So that's how I was feeling, for sure. But I knew I needed to then tap into the mindset and really go deep into like what that health set looked like. And it wasn't like the traditional, I think most people, this is the space you're in. Like, so, most people think of like your health, like what is a health set? I ask women all the time, what do you think when I'm saying health set? And they're like, eating better. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And exercising more. Yes, that too. But there's so much more. There's so many other modalities that you can plug into place to get to that place of health that you so desire. And because I was in the entertainment business, because I had access, I was able to connect with really top people, like people who were moving the needle in that space, like Peter Diamandis in longevity, and Jim Quick in the brain health, and Dave Asprey in biohacking, and Naomi Whittle and Dr. Michael Bruce for sleep. And, like the list goes on and on. So when I started, when I was around them and I was getting all of this information and this knowledge, I just was so excited, not just for me, but for like all women, because we just didn't have to settle for feeling that way. Like I knew it, but now it was proven. So that made me very excited.
And I love that you said that. And just for anybody listening today, your mentors can be right there in the book. Like today, Allie can be your mentor with her book, Reshape Your Life, and this podcast. And you didn't even have to meet her in person, but you probably feel like you know her already just from hearing her speak. And let the type of people that you need, like, get that knowledge, like Jim Quick with the brain health, and Dave Asprey with the health, and so many great people. It will bring something added to your life when you just seek out that extra bit of knowledge. And with Google, we really don't have an excuse, right? We could literally find anything at our fingertips.
Yeah.
It's just deciding, like Allie said, that you're not going to settle.
Yeah, you're not going to settle. And for me, the book really, now I'm so deep into it all, but it was more important for me the book to be, to meet people exactly where they are in their journey, right? So, the things that I was learning in the very beginning, that's what's there. The questions that at the end of each chapter, there's questions prompts that you can ask yourself and then journal about, to kind of get you to that place to figure out what is not working. Like, is this really working, or do I want more in this area? Or what would that even look like for me? So it helps you create that roadmap. And like you mentioned, you don't have, I knew that this is not what my girlfriends got jazzed about, right? Yeah. Like for me and you, like, we love it. We love it. But they were just like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. So that's exactly what I did. Just going to tell you what to do and help you along so you could get to your reshape, quicker and faster than I did. It took me years, but I can help you to get to yours. Lickety split.
And I also just want to mention, when you were talking about feeling exhausted, feeling depressed, these are signs that our body gives us,
Mhm.
and it's important to pay attention to those signs and not to just run over them because you're used to just pushing through,
Yeah.
but to really pay attention. Like, is this really what I want? Is this really making me happy? Is this really healthy? And just really dial into like the mindset, the heart set, and all of the things that Allie's talking about in her book. And I have so enjoyed having you on today. This has been so awesome. And
Thank you so much.
you are such a beautiful spirit and so sincere and genuine that I really enjoyed just hearing from your heart.
When you speak from the heart, you connect to the heart. And I think that's the only way that we should walk through this world, right? So thank you so much for saying that. And thank you for having me on.
100%. I know everyone is going to love this episode. Please tell them where they can get a copy of the book. And to the first 5 people that give us a review in iTunes, I'm going to give you a copy of Allie's book.
Thank you so much. So the book is sold everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy a book, you can find it. Also, the audio portion is available as well. I actually read it myself. Yeah, but you can get it everywhere. Here it is. But thank you. What a great gift.
Well, yes. I mean, now you guys got to get excited, get in there.
They'll love it. I know they'll love it. They'll love it.
And again, where can everybody get you on Instagram or social media? Do you have a social channel?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's at Allie Landry, and the company's Instagram is at Reshape with Allie Landry, and the website is Reshape with Allie Landry. So you can go. I have curated products, articles, all of it on the website. But yeah, you could find me those 2 places.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Get out and get the book, Reshape Your Life. And thank you again, Allie.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.